You're tuned to KSQM 91.5 Squim.
Well, have you got your coffee ready? That's right. It's time for Coffee with the Mayor. Now, just so we all know, the views expressed on Coffee with the Mayor do not necessarily represent the views of Squim Community Broadcasting, KSQM Radio, underwriters, management, and volunteers. And Coffee with the Mayor, it's heard on KSQM through the support of Rain Shadow Cafe. Well, welcome, Mayor Armacost. So nice to see you. All right. Well, let's get started. Are you ready to jump in with the questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this would be a question for Sue. What are some of the priorities of the 2021 budget?
Well, thank you for the question. First, I'm going to talk about some general priorities that we have for each and every budget. Each and every budget represents basically the consensus between council's goals and priorities and staff recommendations on how to achieve those goals, as well as just to meet the needs of the community. We need to ensure physical safety of our community. We need to enhance the community's quality of life. And we want to maintain and develop the city's facilities and infrastructures. And we all have to do that within the confines of fiscal responsibility. So that in general means that you have to balance ongoing revenues with ongoing expenses. And we want to minimize the impact of any tax increases or fee increases on our residents or ratepayers. We also want to maintain quality services rather than do across-the-board cuts if we have to. And then we need to make sure we have healthy reserves to weather any economic storms or any contingencies that we might run into. So it sounds kind of boring, but we take our budget development policy very seriously. And those are just a few fine points that we follow each and every year. So more specifically, we we need to accomplish all of that next year during the middle of a public health emergency, right? Which means uncertain revenues. We are recommending a 1% property tax allowed by law, but I want to be clear that that doesn't necessarily mean your taxes will go up, thanks to the complexities of Washington state property tax law, which I won't bore you with at this point. Our budget does reflect some economic stability despite COVID. It helps that we are the retail mecca of the Olympic Peninsula, and we serve not just our 8,000 residents here, but we serve a community that extends way beyond the borders of the city limits. And that also means that we don't just serve 8,000 residents. All of the residents of our community come to use our roads and our parks and our services. So maintaining those is super important to us. I do want to mention that all the projects, all of the infrastructure projects that were identified and approved by council over the summer, those are all in this next year's budget. There were no cutbacks to our infrastructure-related capital projects due to COVID. More specifically related to some programs we have next year, we're really going to be stepping up community engagement on items like race and equity. And we're going to be launching a really cool program called Squim 101. And it is a 9-week program where we invite citizens to come and participate in lecture series to understand what it takes to operate a city. We're also going to be doing an extensive citizen survey. And finally, we'll be implementing something called Open Book. And this is a transparency tool that allows more access to the budget by our citizens. We're also, unfortunately, doing a lot of succession planning because we have a lot of upcoming retirements. And that takes careful planning to make sure everybody that is put in place is ready to rock and roll and get the job done. We continue to look forward to using technology and our Lean Six Sigma program to create efficiencies and make us more effective. And finally, we'll continue to fund health and human services, as well as economic development. Super important items during a pandemic. And so those are kind of the highlights.
Thank you so much, Sue. You know, that's the first budget presentation I haven't fallen asleep at. That was really riveting. You've got some exciting things planned for next year.
We do.
Yeah, that 101
Thank you.
sounds wonderful. Yeah, excited about that. All right, Mayor. I heard that the City Council has decided not to raise utility rates on sewer and water for 2021. Can you tell us about that? And can you discuss the utility rates and the reduction of the GFC rates?
I'd be happy to, Trish. As you know, the benefit of the City Council, be it elected positions, we are really the ear of the public. And in the light of the pandemic, we have, as everyone has on the planet, had to make adjustments and really take a new lens to look at how our citizens are responding, how we're able to move forward. And as you heard with Sue's budget reference, we're actually doing better than we anticipated. And that comes from some really serious talent. And Sue leads a terrific team that helps achieve that. One of the benefits of our council, and I'm very proud to say that we looked at this situation. We had a sewer and water study done that was suggesting a 4% increase. And we talked as counselors amongst that, having the opportunity to engage the public on a regular basis. We really felt at this time, with the recovery component of COVID, we felt it was unnecessary at this moment. Fortunately, we have a very strong financial balance in our city budget, and we're not going to be looking at reducing any quality or service as a result of that. But we're simply saying to the public, we care about you. We're concerned about how we as a community are going to move forward with a successful foot in the right direction. And I feel, having made that decision as a council, I'm very proud that we're listening to our citizens, and most importantly, those who are in financial positions that increase could impact them. And I'm proud to say that we were able to unanimously agree to put that off for another year. So we're looking out for you, the citizens of Squim, folks. So that's what we're here for.
Oh, thank you so much, Mayor. And here's a programming note. Tune in every Friday evening at 6:15 for the BC Canada Weekly Update with Celeste Steindl, right here on KSQM 91.5 K Squim. Well, did you get your coffee refreshed? That's right, because we're continuing with our Coffee with the Mayor. So we're going to go back to Sue, and she's going to tell us more about the budget in regard to how has the COVID-19 affected the city's proposed 2021 budget.
Thank you, Trish. That was a great question. And what I keep telling everybody is this is a remarkable budget, and it's an unremarkable budget in many ways. It's remarkable in that a group of very dedicated budgeteers at the City of Squim were able to balance all operational funds, which means expenses don't exceed ongoing revenues. And again, that took a lot of work by our dedicated staff. And speaking of staff, and a priority that I did not mention earlier, is that it's more important now than ever to have a well-maintained and welcoming community, especially during a pandemic. So keeping our staff working and servicing the community was one of our top priorities. And as a result, we had to cut elsewhere in the budget. Things like travel are very difficult during COVID-19, so those were kind of easy to pull out of the budget to balance it. But there's other items that just cannot occur during COVID. So those items were eliminated. One of the ways that we did that, or one of the ways that we usually show our budget discipline, if you will, is that every year we do something that's called the budget scrub. And that's where, after all of the departments submit their initial budget requests, And typically the budgets don't balance. So Charlie Bush calls us all into one room. Well, this year it was a Zoom meeting, but he calls all of the department heads into one room, and we literally scrub each and every line of the budget to make sure that we prioritize the work that needs to get done and things that can drop off are eliminated, again, so that we can present a balanced and thorough budget. It just so happens that Charlie Bush gave us a challenge earlier on in the year, and he said, outside of staffing, I want your budgets flat, so be thorough. And this is the first year in 5 years that we all entered the same room to go to the budget scrub, and all of our operational funds were already balanced or reduced. So again, all of our operational budgets are balanced, and they are either flat or decreased from prior years. And then one other thing that I wanted to note for next year, it's actually to dovetail off of the mayor's comments about utility rates. I wanted to remind folks that the city of Squim does have a COVID utility relief program. All you have to do, it's a very simple application to apply at the Civic Center at the city of Squim. Very simple application, and it reduces your base fees by up to 50%. So that program will still be in effect next year so that we can provide relief to those folks that need it. So that's another impact, I guess, of COVID-19. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Sue. I have this picture of you in that room, and the door gets locked. Nobody gets out here until we all get to zero. But
that's kind of how it goes, Trish. Yeah.
All right. Well, Mayor, what is the city doing to address race and equity in the city of Squim?
The city has recently embarked on a couple programs to look at race and equality in our community. The first, the city has become part of a government alliance for race and equity, so we can learn from other communities are doing to address this effort and have experienced support. We have an internal committee that will be reviewing city policy and procedures to ensure that we as an organization are treating our employees and citizens in an inclusive and equitable manner. We also have a committee that is comprised of city staff and community volunteers that are working on designing an outreach program for community conversations where we can get feedback from different populations in our community and learn more about their experiences. These are likely to be tough conversations, but are important if we are going to make progress toward a more exclusive community.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the work will be worth it, I'm sure. It is now 8:21, and you're tuned to KSQM 91.5 K Squim, and we are having coffee with the mayor. But let's talk about the ferry report. This is the KSQM ferry report, and it's made possible through the support of Squim Bay Yacht Club. Now, from Port Townsend, advanced vehicle reservations are available on all sailings today, and from Coopville, reservations are full on the 10:15 and the 4:15 p.m. sailings. And here's a reminder, the Bainbridge Island Ferry Terminal's upper parking lot is closed to commuter parking for asphalt work and repaving. But of course, ADA parking, passenger pickup, drop-off, and employee parking is available for the duration of the project. The work will be performed during the day and is expected to last through October 30th. Customers have less than a week to participate in the current Ferry Riders Opinion Group Survey to share your thoughts on all things ferry related. The last day to make the Washington State Transportation Commission hosted survey is going to be this coming Monday, October 26. Now, the current survey is available online. And if you need to know that website, it's wsdot.com. Just click on the ferries. The Morning Ferry Report is a service of the KSQM News Center, and it's been made possible through the support of Squim Bay Yacht Club. All right, well, let's get back to the questions. And Sue, still talking about the budget. How are staffing levels being impacted in the 2021 budget?
So, as I mentioned before, maintaining staffing levels was a priority for this budget because our community still demands the services like they always have. That said, our actual FTE is slightly reduced from our 2020 budget due to some retirements and just some changes in operations. We're super excited that we're going to be bringing on a part-time communications and marketing coordinator to assist Barbara Hanna, our marketing and communications director. She's going to be, this new position is going to be helping us with the community outreach and engagement that I mentioned before, as well as some tourism-related work. I also wanted to mention that the staffing levels for 2021 also include a new IT technician to help us deploy technology that keeps us efficient and effective, especially when we have a large number, I won't say a majority, but a large number of people working remotely. It also includes a full-time emergency management coordinator to help us respond to COVID and get our plans in place and execute those plans. That was actually a part-time position in the 2020 budget, but we've expanded that role to a full-time position next year. So those are some of the staffing items for the 2021 budget.
Fantastic. It's all under control. Yes, exactly. I love that one with Barbara Hanna because she does a lot of fun stuff for the city.
She never has a shortage of work, that is for sure.
All right, well, let's take a break with a little bit of music. We have Elaine Paige, yes, that great Broadway star, and let's listen now to Memory. You know what it's from. Cats. Oh, thank you, Elaine Paige. If you're just joining us, yes, that was the hit tune from Cats, Memory. Now, we have some questions for David Garlington. Okay, David, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We're getting the technology all straight here. Okay, we've got 2 questions for you. So question number 1 is, what kind of capital projects does the city have planned for next year?
Okay, well, we have quite a number of projects. Some of them have guaranteed funding, either city or state funding. Some of them we're hoping to find funding for during the course of the year. But just going through some of our different categories in our parks, we have we're going to pave the parking lot by the soccer fields, and that's going to be a big deal. We're going to reconfigure it a little bit to make it a little larger, and reconfigure the road-for-road entrance so it's a 2-way entrance rather than a 1-way entrance as it is right now. So that'll make that area work a bit more efficiently. We're going to be working on a sidewalk project and roundabout improvements on Squim Avenue and a roundabout at Squim and Old Olympic Highway to make that more pedestrian and bicycle friendly, and to complete the sidewalk going down to down the west side of Squim Avenue. That's going to be primarily design work in 2021. We have some water projects. We're going to be starting on a new well. We're going to drill a exploratory well, and if we find good water at the location that we want it and the depth that we want it, then that'll turn into a production well to increase our potable water supply. We're putting in some new water valves around town to better able to isolate the water system if we have a problem, so we shut off fewer customers when we go in and fix that problem. We've got some projects in the sewer down at the WRF, the water reclamation facility, to do some upgrades there that'll increase the capacity of the plant going forward as Squim is growing, as everybody recognizes. And in the street venues, we did a public outreach with the South Squim Complete Streets this year. We're going to get with that neighborhood again and decide where we want to go in terms of design and start that work. We're hoping to get some money from the state legislature to move forward with the what we're calling the East Squim Corridor improvements. That's the Simdars Road interchange and road improvements out in the east side of town. So those are some of the highlights. There's a number of other projects, but I won't take up the whole hour with them. But those are some of the highlights.
Oh, thank you so much, David. So many exciting things going on. And, well, you touched my heart by putting in more sidewalks there on the west side of Squim, on that avenue there. That's wonderful. All right. Well, here's question number 2. Why does the water main on Maple Street keep failing? Does the city use PVC?
Actually, no. The water line that I presume is being referred to is the water line on Maple between 6th Avenue and 7th Avenue. We've been having a lot of trouble with that line, and it's actually it's made out of what we call asbestos concrete. It was very popular with water lines decades ago. It's not used anymore because of the asbestos element of it. It's not a danger. The asbestos doesn't get into the drinking water. But when we are able to change out some of those lines, we do change them out. But the problem that we have with that line in terms of its failure is that when it was built, again, many decades ago, there was no pipe bedding put in. Typically, when you put in a pipeline, you dig your trench and then you put in some fine material, sand or fine crushed rock, to act as a uniform bedding for the pipe. In this particular piece of pipe, it was just put in on top of the native material, which is in that area the Squim potatoes. And so you have all these rocks pushing up against the line, creating pressure points. And over time, and with traffic driving on top of it, that works its way into the line and cracks the line and breaks the line. Excuse me. So what we've done after this last failure is we've isolated most of that line. We cut it and capped it at one end, and we closed an existing valve at the other. So most of that block, that line is dead, and so we won't have any more water leaks out of it. We did it in such a way that we're still supplying water to all the users that we're taking water from that line. So nobody's missing their water supply, but until we mount a bigger project to replace that entire stretch of pipe, right now it's just dead. We'd like to have it active because it helps with what we call looping, having water come in from more than one direction. But for the time being, it's a dead line, and eventually we'll replace it with modern materials.
Oh, thank you so much, David. Gosh, you have to be part historian, archaeologist when you work with Public Works.
Yes, it helps, but that's also part of the interest.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you so much, David. Those were the 2 questions for you, and we're going to get back to the mayor and Sue. So thank you again.
You're welcome.
Okay, now this is a question for Sue, and it's in regard to the mayor's talking about the race and equity in the city of Squim. And they want to know that in addressing the race and equity, has that affected the police budget at all?
All right. Thanks for the question. Some fun facts. First, the operational budget for the police department is about $3.5 million, and that represents 30% of the general fund's total budget. As I mentioned before, all budgets are balanced, or they were flat with prior years, or slightly reduced. And that $3.5 million budget for the police department is flat with last year's budget. And just to reiterate, the police department remains fully staffed. And as I mentioned before, it includes a full-time emergency management coordinator to help support us during COVID-19. But in addition to police operations, we've got a vehicle replacement planned for them. They need equipment and to keep them on the roads and efficient. We've also got some software updates for them. we're planning to get everybody new bulletproof vests next year. That's in one of the equipment reserve budgets. Bulletproof vests have to be replaced about every 5 years. Yeah. So that's planned, and that's partially grant funded as well. So that's great. And then there's also a pilot planned. We have to plan it very carefully, but body worn cameras are being considered for a pilot next year.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about the police budget.
Wow, exciting things going on there. Thank you so much, Sue. Well, let's take a break, and we're going to listen to Simon and Garfunkel. This was an original song Paul Simon wrote before he even joined Simon and Garfunkel, but they also recorded it together. And let's listen to them. I Am a Rock. Oh, thank you so much, Paul Simon. I'm so glad you're a songwriter. Whew, do it grand. If you're just joining us, that was I Am a Rock. It's 8:41 and you're tuned to KSQM 91.5, where we are enjoying coffee with the mayor. So let's continue our questions. Mayor, how do you feel about the large number of candidates that applied for the open position on the city council?
I think it is outstanding. As you may have read in the paper, we had 8 viable citizens who were interested in acquiring that one vacated seat on our city council. Regrettably, 2 of them either had not lived in the city long enough, or they had been annexed into the city and it hadn't quite been official. So we actually had 6 extremely diverse and extremely talented individuals that are willing to step up and serve our community of Squim. We conducted interviews at our last council meeting, and due to the volume and the importance of making that decision that is going to enhance and improve how well we engage our citizens, we will actually be making that decision this coming Monday, the 26th, with our council meeting at that point. But I think it speaks well for our citizens. I've been in Squim for 35 years. I love our little town, and it excites me when we have people who are willing to step up and serve the needs of our community. So I'm excited to see the selection. Again, we have great candidates, and I think it's going to be something that will just enhance our current city council.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I listened to those interviews, so I can imagine the decision's going to be pretty hard. There were some nice ones there. So, next question for you. When does the city plan to open the Civic Center to the public?
You know, that is a question that we continue to get reference to. According to our Governor, Jay Inslee, Safe Start Plan, the Civic Center will open to the public when we enter Phase 3 of that plan. There will be specific protocols required, like wearing a face mask, maintaining social distancing, and size may be limited. The city is currently conducting business with the public with our online platform and by telephone, and we will still encourage residents to continue to use those resources as much as possible when the buildings open. So we're hoping we'll get to Phase 3 very, very, very quickly.
Oh, that's great. I can't wait. That's right. We're in Phase 2, so yes, it's the next step. All right, so it's 8:44, and you're tuned to KSQM 91.5 Squim. Well, you're listening to Coffee with the Mayor, and we are connecting with the mayor with more questions here. So, how long will the food care package distribution program be at Carrie Blake Park?
The COVID-19 food care package distribution at Carrie Blake Park is scheduled to continue through the end of December, with pickups twice per month. The next pickup day is Wednesday, October 28th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Drivers are asked to queue up at the Trinity United Methodist Church on Blake Avenue, where they will be directed to volunteers who will load their cars with boxes of food. The pickup dates will continue on the second and the fourth Wednesday of November and December. This program is in addition to the regular food distribution by the Squim Food Bank, which is available on Mondays from 1 to 4 and on Friday and Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon. I'm very, very proud to be part of a community that has really stepped up, looking at the needs of how this is impacting so many people, that this experience of needing a little food assistance is very unique for them, and sometimes it's a bit of a challenge with our pride, but it is there to help everyone that needs it. So I'm very proud that we continue to offer that as a service.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Yes, it is. It's a wonderful program. And you're tuned to KSQM 91.5 K Squim. Just so you know, Coffee with the Mayor is heard on KSQM through the support of Rain Shadow Cafe. Rain Shadow Cafe is located at 157 West Cedar in Squim, across from City Hall. Rain Shadow Cafe offers coffee and coffee beans, espresso, and lattes, as well as a menu of light meals, pastries, and breakfasts. The telephone number is 360-797-1654. All right, well, let's get back to our last question for the mayor. And it is a topic of high concern in the community. I am very concerned. I heard on the radio that the ballot box in the J.C. Penney's parking lot was overflowing and that the police were called to protect it. I didn't vote that day out of fear. Who is responsible for security of that box? And where did the overflow ballots go?
You know, that's an excellent question. One, first and foremost, it's exciting that we have a community that's engaged and recognizes that every single election is a very high priority. This is your opportunity as we, the people, are given that constitutional right to elect our public officials. The unfortunate reality, there's a capacity limit there. We are currently seeing the collection of those ballots by a county employee, and quite frankly, we were not anticipating the overwhelming number of early voters that happened to fill that box. Now, here's a classic example of why our citizens are some of the best on the planet. There was a lady, when she got to put her ballot in, they were physically falling out. She did the responsible adult behavior. She folded them, stuffed them back in the box, and then proceeded to communicate with the rest of the people in line her scenario. She called the sheriff, she called the police. I don't know if it was her particularly, but I received 2 voicemails in addition. The benefit of, again, a small community, the police were there immediately. They were able to secure every single ballot that had been placed in that box did indeed make it to the courthouse, and it will be counted. So again, kudos to our citizens. We have a community that looks after each other. We may have times that we disagree, but we all agree that Squim is one of the best places on the planet to call home.
Oh, yes, that's so true, Mayor. And thank you to that citizen. Yes, she's living up to that. If you see something, say something. And we're going to take a quick break because we just got a question in over the telephone. So we're going to take a quick music break and get back to that one. All right, let's listen to the 5 keys. Close your eyes.
Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, that was Jim Noble, David Keat, and Jason Papelka. Close your eyes. That was the 5 keys, right. Someday I will get that all straight. All right, we've got a question. We had a call in, so let's listen to what this question is. When the mayor was talking about all the candidates that applied for the position for the empty city council seat, the question came in is, what criteria was used to select the new council member?
That's an excellent question. As you know, we really put a lot of energy and pride in creating transparency and accountability in our city center. That being said, all of our information from the application to vying for that position, there are 7 questions that you can go online and actually read. And what we have done since I've been on the council is we will allow each individual counselor to ask 1 question. We then did that live with our interview process 2 weeks ago. And as a result of that, what we're looking for is obviously an individual who is vested in our community. Obviously, they have to be a resident for over a year. And most importantly, we're looking for a team player. This is a nonpartisan position. So even though we're in a crazy time in our world, and there are so many components of political bias, that we really try to look beyond that, and how can we best serve our citizens of Squim in taking that responsibility to heart. It's a big decision to commit of time, and again, I commend and applaud all of those who applied, because it is a commitment of their time. But we are looking for the right individual that is going to serve Squim's best interest. We obviously, we're fortunate to have an option with gender. We have young ladies as well as gentlemen, and I am confident, and again, I have no idea which is going to be the person that we will select, but I am confident, based upon the qualifications, that we're going to end up with an asset that's going to move forward with the City Council.
Oh, that's great. I can't wait to hear it on the next council meeting. Thank you so much, Mayor. Well, that is the end of the questions, and I want to thank you both so much. We learned so much about the budget. That was so wonderful, and you made it so clear and understandable for the first time in my life. It was interesting.
Thank you for
And
having me.
Thank you, Mayor. Always, as always. It's always wonderful to have you here. You share the government with the people, and you give us a behind-the-scenes look. So thank you for taking your time.
My pleasure.
Yeah. And Sue, thank you.
Thank you, Trish.
All right. And thank you out there to David, too, for answering the questions for Public Works. All right. You go and have a great day. All right. So the views expressed on Coffee with the Mayor do not necessarily represent the views of Squim Community Broadcasting, KSQM Radio, underwriters, management, and volunteers. Questions or concerns may be submitted via email to office@ksqmfm.com, or you can call 360-681-0000. Thank you so much.
You're tuned to KSQM 91.5 Squim.